Today we'll be covering just general basics, what's short selling, what are the classes of shares, as we talk about short facilitation. The choice is yours, one of the more exciting slides, and then we'll go into a product demo followed by some Q&A. So short selling, what is it conceptually? Basically, it is a trade in which an investor believes shares are going to decline in value. They sell short the shares, so they're basically like negative shares at that point. And the goal is that the stock will go down and they will cover those shares at a lower price, thus making that difference between where they sold it and where they bought it back at. So it's a strategy that's used every day in and out by institutions. We at TradeZero feel like that we've made this a lot more approachable given the technology behind our short sale facilitation, which we'll get into in the next little bit. So types of short shares, we've broken this down basically into 4 different buckets. The first is easy to borrow. And those are typically your S&P stocks, your most liquid names, your Microsofts, your Apples, your IBMs, et cetera. They are an ample supply at your brokerage firm, meaning people who are long those shares. That's generally what it means by having ample supply. To short an easy to borrow stock, there is no additional action required other than pushing the short button. That's it. You short it. When the stock hopefully goes down, you buy it back by covering or buying. So that's how that works. The next category are the premium stocks. And if anybody is a current TradeZero customer, those are generally denoted by the little red LR, which is locate required. These are stocks that are not as plentiful as the easy to borrow. And in order to short those, you actually have to get a locate. So what's a locate, Bri?
And that's where we come into the picture. So the locate product sits in the security lending area desk group. And when someone comes in for a particular name that's on a premium stock, they will come in through our system for a locate to get short approval. And I'm just making this name up because it's not, it's hard to borrow. But, let's say IBM, and I'm just using that as an example. Stock would come into the system, and we would have providers to see if we could facilitate that locate. And then there's a pricing involved in it, and everybody would see that on the screen, and then their choice whether to accept it or not.
And if you accept those on these premium stocks, you have the ability to short the shares, cover them, short the shares and cover them. There's no restriction or limitation as to number of times that you could do that. And subsequently, which is a very unique prospect for TradeZero clients, when you no longer need the locate, we provide you with the facility to what we call market for credit so that those shares can be reapplied to the next customer that wants to short those shares, and you recoup some of the fee that it took to get into that locate to begin with. Following on, so we have our easies, we have our premiums, then we have our hard to borrows. These are in also stocks in limited supply. These need to be borrowed by a broker in order to facilitate a short. So locates in the traditional sense are not enough. The broker needs to actually borrow the shares in order to facilitate a short sale.
And I'm sorry, yeah. So that's where, again, the security lending desk comes into play. We have to go out and actually borrow, not buy, borrow that securities from one of our counterparties in our account base to cover that short sale.
And so the hard to borrows and thresholds securities are treated very similarly. The SEC in their FAQ has been pretty clear that if you want to short a hard to borrow or threshold security, you either need to get a locate that is good only one time. You can't reapply like I was just telling you about the premiums, or a pre-borrow. So what is a Reg Show security? So Reg SHO is a FINRA rule, SEC rule. These are stocks that are published by the listing exchanges, New York Stock Exchange, ARCA, NASDAQ, CBOE, etc. whose shares have had 5 consecutive days of failure to deliver by a clearing firm, to a clearing firm. So this is a list that's published every day. People can Google it, NASDAQ Reg Show list. And that is a list that we load into our systems on a daily basis. These stocks, as I mentioned, can be shorted in one of two ways. Either getting a locate that is used you can only use one time, or getting a pre-borrow, which you can use multiple times.
Okay, and that's again where security lending desk comes into play. Pre-borrow means we have to we have to go out and obtain the borrow for that security that you were looking to short. So we have it in possession. So like Dan mentioned, for you going in and out of the stock all day if you were trading it, or what I like to say, kept it overnight, or for the next day or whatnot. It has to be obtained, the position here, so that stock can be either delivered through your clearing party or through us, or if you clear domicile, wherever that may be. It's a covered position.
So generally, our folks on our securities lending desk, there is a they have a process by which they reach out to their counterparties to obtain borrows on securities for any of the stocks that either our customers take home overnight short, or in advance getting shares pre-borrowed. The locates for the most part work fully electronically, as we're hooked up to many different counterparties electronically. But the borrowing side of things, whether that be a borrow or pre-borrow, the guys at the SOC loan desk are actively sourcing that liquidity for the firm and its customers. So the choice is yours, as I mentioned. TradeZero has now come out with a new dynamic. This is the thing I'm really excited to tell you guys about. And that is providing a choice between single-use locates or pre-borrows on our threshold security. So what's the difference? Single-use, the few attributes to it. It can only be used one time for shorting stocks. So if you PRZO is one
PRZO.
today, is a threshold. Thanks, Bry. Where if you want to short PRZO once, a single-use locate would work. You get the locate, you short, you cover. If you wanted to do it again, you could either get another single use, or you may say to yourself, hey, maybe I'm going to do more, and I may consider a pre-borrow. The single-use locates are able to be sourced starting at 4 a.m. Eastern. As I mentioned, the electronic nature of the locates, we're turning those systems on at 4 a.m. And the single-use locates you'll find are generally greatly reduced in pricing. So that's another advantage to those. On the pre-borrow side, when you obtain a pre-borrow, those shares are actually borrowed and they're allocated to your account. These are generally more expensive than locates.
Correct.
The guys, as I mentioned, they are leveraging their relationships and our counterparties, and so they're actually loading in inventory on the pre-borrow side, starting at like 7 a.m. Eastern, right, Bri?
Yes, exactly.
And pre-borrows also de-risk buy-ins. So if you know that you want to hold something short overnight, or maybe for more than one night, a pre-borrow always kind of gives you the peace of mind that you're not going to get a buy-in notice from your broker, in this case TradeZero, telling you that you need to either cover the shares or that we would do it for you. The last thing, go ahead.
Sorry, Dad. I just want to throw this in there because I love stuff when stuff is real. So PRZO is a great example, right? So we had a threshold name, like Dan was mentioning earlier, and we had customers come in both ways, meaning they came in for single use and they came in for pre-borrows, depending on their trading strategies, and their views. So that is a perfect example for this slide. I just want to mention that we had customers take both of those today.
Great. The last thing I want to mention about pre-borrows is that you can reapply a pre-borrow for multiple short sales. So if you PRZO, if you chose to get a pre-borrow with us today, you can short cover as many times as you'd like without any restriction. So that's another kind of attribute, potentially an advantage for sourcing a pre-borrow as opposed to a single-use locate. So on our platform, we'll actually do this live. This is a screenshot from earlier today. If on our locates window, this is the Zero Pro platform. On our locates window, if you look to locate or do a pre-borrow on any threshold security, when you type in the name, you press locate, you're actually seeing a choice of either a pre-borrow or a single use. And you can see there's a big price discrepancy here, 0.4 of a penny as opposed to 6 3/4 cents. But again, if you're someone who's actively trading, that may make sense for you. Additionally, if you're someone who's looking to hold it overnight, that may make sense to you. Because thresholds, the reason why they're threshold is because they've had 5 consecutive days of fail to deliver. And the final point before we dive into the platform is if you guys are trading and you are trying to source something that's not coming up with inventory, whether that be a threshold that you're not seeing a pre-borrow on or just something that's coming up without inventory, please reach out to us. Reach out to your respective broker-dealer, whether it be TradeZero Canada, TradeZero Inc. in the Bahamas, or TradeZero America, and we will do as best we can to fulfill your needs because many times it's that prompt from our customers that kind of kicks us into action to source stuff that we may not really be aware is in demand. Right. So just another point to add there. You got something, Bri?
Nope. I was totally agreement. I was going to say, It's always good to hear from the customers.
Okay, so I am going to now show you guys just a real-time example. Here's Zero Pro. We see our short locates window here. This is updating in real time. You see the times here of the last pricing updates. We're going to look at our buddy PRZO right now. And we see that just as in the screenshot, you have the option of pre-borrowing and single use. The price has actually come down a little bit. So I'm going to get a pre-borrow on PRZO. We see that right now on my order entry, my level 2 window, I have 100 shares sourced of 100 shares available. Let's actually do a short sell. 100 shares, send the order. That's filled. Okay. Now it goes back to having a locate required status because those shares are already spoken for in an open short position. So I'm going to go back in right now and cover that. Take a little bit of a loss, but that's okay. And once I've done that, you see that the 100 shares have been restored. So if I wanted to, I'm going to put out another short order. Not going to get it executed. And I have the ability to do that just because I've gotten the pre-borrow as opposed to the single use locate. So as I no longer need this pre-borrow, I'm going to hit our little credit button here. And this is going to now make the pre-borrowed shares available for someone else to purchase. Actually, before doing that, let me source a single use locate. And LDTC, this is another threshold security today. So you see when I click the button, we do have inventory for both pre-borrow and single use. Let me accept on the single use side. Let's take a look at what a short looks like there. Okay. And we see the 100 of 100, so I can now short. Let's short it at the bid price. Okay, I'm now short. When I cover this, you will see that the locate is now gone. I cannot short the stock again unless I went in and I either got another single-use locate or I sourced some pre-borrow inventory here. And as I was about to do before, when I no longer need my pre-borrow or I no longer need a single-use locate that I did not use, or any locate for that matter, I can click our credit button here, and that basically makes it available for sale so that potentially on a FIFO basis, if someone wants to get a pre-bar on PRZO, it would be reapplied through TradeZero from my account. So that's kind of a full round turn on how this works. And look forward to answering any questions that we can.
Your eyes are better than mine.
So what happens in a situation where I have both single use and pre-borrows? So the single use would get used first, Mark. The pre-borrow would then kick in once the single use is no longer available. So that is the way in which the priority would work. So next on the roadmap for when it comes to short selling, one sort of some low-lying fruit is getting a lot better on the classification of when stock is threshold or not, when it's just a locate required or shortable. We'd like to bring that forward, not only on the level 2 windows, but also in the locate screens. So just like we see Tesla here is in bright green, that means this thing's easy to borrow. Potentially having shares listed in red, as well as providing an identifier here for when there are reg show thresholds. We would like to provide fundamental information and statistical information, as I just mentioned, things like shares in the float, shares outstanding, that type of information, so that we're not just providing the short access and execution services, but we're also providing more of that decision support information that you may be getting from, your Yahoo Finance or your FinViz. I want to short cover twice, for instance. Can I get a single use locate twice for the same stock of getting a pre-borrow? Yes, you can. So once the single use has been used, you can then go back in and reprice it. So hit that locate button again. You'd be presented with those two options. One is a single use, one is pre-borrow, and you could decide. Like I said in the presentation, and Brian, I think you can attest to this. The pricing generally on the pre-borrows is going to be more than a locate or a single use locate. Although we have at times seen that, sometimes they're not that far apart. So I think really the decision on which way to go is price sensitive, but it's also strategy sensitive, because if you're going to be actively moving in and out, you may want to weigh out which direction to go. That's not to say that if the pre-borrow price is 10x the single use price, if you think you're going to go in 8 or 9 times, you may go 10 or 11 or 12. So that I think that those are the factors that should weigh into your decision. Additionally, if you know that you want to hold something overnight, and it is threshold and having the fails to deliver, which generally lead to buy-ins, that's another area where you may want to consider going with the pre-borrow.
Especially on threshold names, it's so common, and I don't think it's ever going away.
Yeah, and Brian, we've seen really starting in May with T+1 that I think that's become a lot more frequent and common.
Yeah. You don't have as much wiggle room as you used to have in the past, and things are a lot tighter now, for sure, since T+1 kicked in.
So just some highlights about the TradeZero. This functionality is available on our web trader, as well as on Zero Pro version 6.3.4. In January, we're looking to release 6.3.5, which is going to have a little bit nicer treatment on the differentiation between single use and pre-borrows. And, we are always listening. So things that the choice of providing single use and pre-borrow really came out of listening to our customers, and a few of them saying, "Hey, listen, we love the fact that we can now source stuff at 4 a.m. We love the fact that the pricing's been great on those, but sometimes we don't care. We just want to have the total freedom and flexibility to short at will without having to go through the process of sourcing another locate." So we thought it a great idea to provide that optionality within the platform. and really put you in the driver's seat to determine which way you wanted to go. Cool. Well, if nothing else, Bri, thank you. This was
Thank
great.
you.
And happy
Thank you,
holidays,
everybody.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
Have a happy new year. And please, if there's anything that we can do for you on any front, trading related, please reach out. We're happy to hear from you.
Yes. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.